I got fired at 9:06 a.m. by 9:20 a.m. The 450 million or prototype triggered my silent exit plan. It happened in a flash. 9:06 a.m. My access badge still worked when I tapped it at the elevator. I was juggling my usual black coffee and the final diagnostic report for the power calibration module. The numbers looked strong. Finally, some stability. But the moment I walked into the third-floor conference room of Halvex Dynamics in Portland, Oregon, I knew. Seated at the head of the table, Cole Maddox, the new CEO. Beside him, HR Director Lillian, and an unfamiliar man in a navy suit, likely legal. No one smiled. Aaron Cole said, lacing his fingers, "Let's keep this brief. Your position is redundant. Effective immediately. The exit package would be emailed. Redundant." Like I hadn't led the engineering core behind Ether 9, an adaptive energy protocol that kept long-range drones stable in flight. I didn't argue. You don't challenge decisions made hours before your calendar invite hits. I'd been at Halvex since I was 29. Now, 36. No title at first. Just a converted janitor's closet, a noisy laptop, and a prototype that wouldn't last 7 minutes without overheating. 3 months in, I slept on that narrow couch more nights than I care to remember. Ether 9 was born in that room, but I was never in the pictures. When funding came, the team grew. I was promoted to lead architect in name only. Everything started funneling through Kyle Merton, a sharp-talking product manager I had trained. Kyle was smooth, corporate, learned fast, not just code, but how to rewrite history. Soon documentation began saying system performance under Kyle Merton. My name faded. Still I kept working, quietly building, logging everything. That morning, as Cole dismissed me without eye contact, I reached into my coat pocket and felt the black USB drive I'd carried daily for half a year. It wasn't for storage, it was for activation. The moment my credentials were deactivated, the system launched a self-lockdown. It pulled my version history, compiled encrypted logs, and triggered a legal failsafe tied to my personal filing. They thought they'd erased me, but they had just hit send. As I passed the polished wall of executive portraits in the lobby, updated, of course, my name wasn't there. Funny, I built the system that paid for that frame, and they never even learned how it worked. Instead, the reports read, "System performance under the direction of Kyle Merton." In meetings, I was still present, but never asked to speak. Kyle handled the talking. I watched my diagrams get flattened, stripped of nuance, then repackaged with sleeker fonts. Rebranded. I said nothing until the final system test reached 99.92% stability, the benchmark needed for contract readiness. That night, I submitted a quiet formal request to be named co-inventor on the patent. I attached every log, every version, every commit. Not for praise, just fairness. Cole never responded, but Kyle did. "Now's not the time to push," he wrote. "Let's keep the focus clean. Investors are watching." A week later, I learned Kyle had advised legal not to include me. He cited role ambiguity and continuity concerns. I didn't argue. I stopped submitting corrections, stopped asking for attribution. But I didn't stop working. Every line of code I touched was logged privately, every schematic archived in duplicate, every design iteration mirrored in encrypted storage. They stripped my name from the decks, but I had already etched it deep into the system's DNA. 7 years of quiet diligence. While they handed titles to people who couldn't explain a recursive loop, celebrated rooftop wins while I debugged voltage noise at 3:12 a.m. They renamed the project 5 times. Never once asked what I wanted to call it. Now, I was gone. No goodbye, no mention in the newsletter, just a locked badge and a wiped inbox. But at a quiet corner cafe near Burnside Street over cracked tile floors and a chipped mug of bitter coffee, I pulled out the velvet pouch I always carried. Inside, a black USB. No labels, no storage. Just the final trigger. The keystone of a quiet failsafe I'd spent months building. It didn't store code. It activated it. They thought they erased me. But they didn't know the system was designed to detect absence, my absence, as a signal to launch. And it had. It started the day he arrived. Cole Maddox, TED Talk smile-tailored suits, all posture, no substance. He called himself a visionary, tossed around words like scale and global reach while I was still testing voltage shift resilience. He raised millions, but he never learned how to read the system I built or notice when it stopped recognizing him. Kyle changed. Promoted to chief product liaison, he swapped curiosity for calculation. Now he wore silk ties and avoided my eyes. Started calling me Ms. Price in meetings. Cole loved him, said he was sharp and aligned with company culture. Translation: Kyle knew when to stay quiet and when to echo Cole's buzzwords. I was slowly pushed out. Access restricted. My name disappeared from investor decks. I stood at the back of the room as Cole bragged about Ether9 as our patented breakthrough, even though no patent had been filed. That's when I knew. I had to protect what I built. Quietly, I contacted Amelia Reese, a Portland-based IP attorney. Not flashy, but sharp. We went through every line of code I'd written, every schematic, every timestamp. Then we built a legal trap. I embedded a declaration of sole inventorship inside a document labeled Q4 Neural Benchmark Summary. Cole loved to skim and sign fast, and he did. One Tuesday morning, glowing from a New York investor lunch, he scribbled his signature and said, "Let's just keep the engine moving." That stroke of a pen, he handed me legal ownership. That night, I uploaded the file into my local system. The last condition of my fail-safe protocol had been met. The system wouldn't trigger until my credentials were revoked, until I was fired. Now, sitting in that same cafe with cracked tile floors, the sunlight catches my coffee cup. My phone buzzes. A message from Amelia: confirmation received. Filing queued. All required signatures verified. He thought he was signing a milestone report. He'd signed away his empire. 6 months ago, this was just a theory. Now, it was law. It all began on a quiet Thursday, the day Kyle removed my name from yet another system update. No warning, no heads up, just gone. That's when I felt it. They were preparing my exit, not abrupt, not messy, just the usual vague title changes, desk relocations, whispered talk of realignment. So I got to work. I backed up every file, documented every change, drafted a chain of authorship no one could dispute. Then I built the fail-safe code hidden deep inside my local environment. It would only activate under 3 conditions: revoked credentials, disabled access, signed inventorship confirmation. Now, all 3 were fulfilled. And Ether9 belonged to me. 3 months before they let me go, we filed a provisional patent, a placeholder, with the USPTO. It was accepted pending one final confirmation. That confirmation came from Cole Maddox himself 3 weeks ago. He thought he was signing a quarterly performance summary. In truth, he signed off on my inventorship, buried in the fine print page 7, masked in technical jargon, linked to validated devlogs. He didn't read it. He never did. I uploaded that signed document into Failsafe and waited. The morning they fired me, 9:06 a.m., my credentials were revoked. Seconds later, my access was terminated. Failsafe activated on its own. By 9:20 a.m., the full patent was filed, verified, and time-stamped under my name. Not Halvex, not Kyle, not Cole, just me. I was still sitting in that quiet corner cafe when the final confirmation came in. No adrenaline, no fear, just quiet clarity. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. They never bothered to learn how Ether9 worked, never cared to understand it. They didn't know the patent had already been filed months earlier, or that Cole himself had legally confirmed I was the sole inventor. They expected me to disappear. Instead, I became the only name that mattered. I opened a private log and typed 3 words: "It is done." No press release, no anger, just calm. 6 months of coding, encrypting, mirroring, preparing, all leading to this moment. The truth had finally taken root in legal ink. If Aaron's journey sparked something in you, something quiet but powerful, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel and come with us to the next chapter, where strategy meets justice and voices, once silenced, rise with purpose. There's more to this story, and trust me, it only gets better from here. Each week, We bring you real stories of resilience, redemption, and the kind of quiet strength that rewrites the rules. So if you're ready to stand with those who refuse to be erased, hit that button. Because the next name they try to forget just might be yours. Better yet, the system was set to notify everyone listed in the original metadata, including Cole Maddox and Kyle Merton. As I sat in that cafe, they were receiving the same email I was. Subject: patent filing confirmation. Inventor: Aaron J. Price. Time: 9:20 a.m. I could almost see Cole mid-sentence in a polished meeting room phone buzzing. He'd glance down, pause, his voice catching. And Kyle, probably sipping his usual matcha, refreshing the email twice, hoping it was a mistake. It wasn't. No alarms, just a silent unraveling. A barista passed by. "You okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine." On the muted cafe TV, a headline scrolled across the bottom: Halvex Technologies faces IP conflict over 450 Mer prototype. I opened my phone. Notes app. Typed 5 words. Now they finally know everything. But facts don't flinch. The USPTO had filed the patent under my name. The metadata, the signature, the logs, all verified. And the person who confirmed my inventorship, Cole Maddox. He'd signed the document himself, buried on page 7. Not that he'd admit it. Men like Cole don't admit mistakes. They reframe them, deny, deflect, offer hush money before accountability. But even he would understand once legal parsed the confirmation. I wasn't the storm. I was the tide, and it had already risen. An email appeared in my inbox from Halvex Legal. A name I didn't recognize. "We'd like to clarify the ownership of the Ether system. Please let us know if you're open to discussion." I didn't open it. Didn't delete it either. I just marked it unread. Then stood. Coat, bag, door. The Portland air was sharp that morning, the wind biting. But I welcomed it. They'd tried to erase me, and I'd responded in the only language they respected: legal, technical, permanent. And I'd spoken first. I knew Kyle had received the email too, the USPTO confirmation. It was likely still flashing in his inbox as he sat frozen, replaying everything. He wasn't always this way. When Kyle joined Halvex, he was young, overeager, and too proud of his Stanford degree. But sharp, curious, and, for a while, honest. I took him under my wing, helped him clean up messy logic chains, let him shadow simulations, covered for his early mistakes. We shared late nights with bad coffee and whiteboard debates about system ethics. Then Cole arrived, and Kyle changed. He got invited to investor meetings, started talking about optics and positioning instead of data structures. Eventually, he stopped looping me into decisions about my own system. He rewrote my documentation, smoothed risk reports. Then came the message I sent 1 month before termination. I warned him, if the system is shut down from the wrong end, it'll purge itself. He flagged it low priority, forwarded it to IT. Today, he found out I wasn't bluffing. I can picture him now storming into the secure server room, demanding backups of Ether 9, only to see nothing. No logs, no recovery. All gone, triggered automatically when my credentials were revoked at 9:06 a.m. He was the only one I warned. And he ignored me. Not promotable, not political, just a shadow in the room he was trying to enter. And now, the system we built was gone. At least for him. I don't hate Kyle, even now, but I do mourn the version of him I once knew. The one who debated algorithmic bias with me at 2 a.m. over bad coffee. The one who used to ask, "Why not? How do we spin this?" That version called me Aaron and meant it. That Kyle is gone. The one who remains, he's sitting in front of his inbox, staring at a draft of an apology he'll never send. I know I saw his name pop up. Drafted. Deleted. I don't need the apology. His silence was already the answer. I wasn't there when the panic started, but I knew the rhythm. By 9:30 a.m., the CTO would be pacing at the mainframe console, his voice sharp, trying to stay calm. They'd check redundant backups, local West Coast mirror encrypted vault, only to find the same thing. Nothing. No builds, no logs, just deletion trails. All time-stamped to 9:06 a.m., the moment my credentials were revoked. Diagnostics would run, then rerun. Someone would whisper, "Did Aaron do this?" Not out of spite, out of precision. Every purge I wrote wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to protect. Failsafe wasn't vengeance. It was the firewall between me and erasure. Meanwhile, Cole would be in a glass conference room, red-faced barking orders through his collar. "The patent belongs to Halvex," he'd shout. But volume doesn't overwrite truth. Legal would arrive, calm, quick. Deborah Klein, sharp composed, would lay it out. The filing is valid, the trail is clear, and yes, Cole signed the confirmation himself. He wouldn't deny it. He'd just deflect. Delegate blame. He always did. But this time, there was no spin. Only a line from the USPTO. Filed. Public. Permanent. By midday, a screenshot of the patent leaked to the press. Then Twitter. Then everywhere. Halvex fired their top engineer. She took the system with her. That line wasn't mine, but it was perfect. I wasn't gloating. Just sipping a new cup of coffee. Warm. Like the truth. They tried to erase me. I let them. And when they looked again, I was the only name left. I had already taken back what was mine. I thought winning would feel louder. After the deletion, after the patent, after the headlines. I expected triumph, vindication, relief. Instead, all I felt was the echo. By early afternoon, I ended up by the coast, a quiet stretch of sand I'd kept in the back of my mind for months, just under an hour from Portland, a place where the signal fades and the wind doesn't answer. I took off my shoes and sat at the edge of the tide. My phone buzzed twice in my pocket. I ignored it. I just stared at the waves and let the silence speak louder than they ever let me. It brought me back to the day I tried. I had walked into that conference room, printed documentation in hand. A simple request to be recognized as co-inventor of Ether9. I'd sent the email 5 days earlier. No reply. Not from Kyle, not from legal, not from Cole. So I printed it, highlighted my timestamps, detailed the core algorithms. Cole barely looked up. "We can't complicate filings with too many names," he muttered. "Keep it clean." Kyle didn't meet my eyes. That was the day I stopped speaking. Not out of peace, but out of exhaustion. Because some silences aren't calm. They burn. And I let it burn through me for months, until only focus remained. That's what built Failsafe. Not revenge clarity. My phone buzzed again. This time, I checked. A message from Thomas, one of the few engineers who ever asked the right questions. He'd left Halvex 6 months ago. "They're falling apart," he wrote. "Everyone's scrambling. Nolan's bluffing." Nolan, the guy they hired to replace me. 2 titles. No clue how the architecture worked. I started typing a reply. I warned them, but I deleted it. They knew now. Then another buzz. "Unknown number." I answered. "Ms. Price," the voice said. Calm, direct. "I represent a private investment group. We've been following the Ether situation." He paused. "We're not affiliated with Halvex, but we are very interested in you." I stayed silent, then asked why now. Because now we know who really built it. I didn't answer, just thanked him, said I'd think about it, and ended the call. The waves rolled in again. Not joy, not pride, just clarity. They'd buried my name. And now, they needed permission just to say it. Notifications flooded my screen. Messages. Subject lines in all caps. The first headline nearly knocked the wind out of me. Fired at 9:06 a.m., patented at 9:20 a.m., 450 million system. No longer belongs to Halvex. I blinked, sat upright, read it again. There it was. My name, my timeline, their mistake. The article had been up for 4 hours already, front page on 3 major tech outlets and trending on Reddit. Someone legal, or maybe just someone fed up, had leaked everything, the filing timestamp footage from the termination, my USPTO confirmation. The journalist didn't hold back. Halvex Technologies, once a rising star in defense automation, now faced legal scrutiny for firing its lead engineer. minutes before a $450 million patent was filed under her name, not theirs. I scrolled. Screenshots from internal emails, a side-by-side of my dismissal at 9:06 a.m. and the public patent filing at 9:20. They weren't reporting the story, they were unpacking it. Then came the video. Cole Maddox, the polished CEO under studio lights on a morning broadcast. His posture, perfect. His smile, wrong. The host went straight in. Mr. Maddox, does Halvex still own rights to the ether? 9 system. Cole's voice clipped. There are ongoing clarifications. I won't speculate. Then came the follow-up. Were you aware that the filing timestamp aligns exactly with the termination of Miss Erin Price? He blinked too many times. We've always supported Erin, he said, adjusting his cuffs. This development is as surprising to us as it is to anyone. And that's when the internet took over. A former employee posted an audio clip from my termination meeting. I didn't even know it had been recorded. Cole's voice clear and cold. Your role is redundant. Your access is revoked, effective immediately. The clip went viral. It hit 2 million views by noon. TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. How much? Justice for Erin trended beside Shutch Halvex collapse. I didn't post, didn't comment. I just watched. The company that erased me was now trying to recover its name, while the man who told me it's not about who builds it, it's who sells it sat exposed. And the irony, I didn't need to say a word. The truth did it for me. That afternoon, a new email arrived. From the same investor as before, the offer still stands. Another from Halvex, legal proposal for acquisition of IP urgent. Polite. Hollow. And years too late, I skimmed past the legal fluff and landed on the number $8 million. That's what Halvex offered to buy Ether9 back. Not a partnership, not equity. Just a lump sum with a buried clause, 2 years of exclusivity barring me from licensing to any competitor. A leash. For the dog they'd already kicked. I closed the email, pushed away from the desk, paced once, then sat back down, opened a blank reply and typed, "Thank you for your proposal. I've considered your offer. It's not for sale. Not to you. Erin J. Price, inventor of Ether9, no drama, no explanation, just finality." I hit send. The calls followed within the hour, blocked numbers, unknown lines. One voicemail from Cole's assistant. Another from a board member I hadn't heard from in years. I watched the screen light up, then fade, and left them in silence, the same one they once used on me. I was steeping tea when a new email arrived. No legal header, no corporate jargon. Just a clean subject line, Aquila Tech. I clicked. Ms. Price, we followed your work for years. We believe in builders, especially those who've been underestimated. We'd like to invite you to join Aquila Tech as Chief Technology Officer. Full autonomy. Your vision, your system, your name. Let's build something they'll never catch. No attempt to own my patent. No attempt to control my work. They weren't buying me out. They were offering me the reins. Not just of Ether9 of the future. I thought of Halvex, that cold Tuesday morning. 9:06 a.m. How they looked at me like I was disposable. Now they were throwing money at what they once discarded, hoping I hadn't noticed. I picked up my phone, called one number. Halvex's general counsel answered on the third ring. "Ms. Price, I saw your offer," I said calmly. "Here's the thing, you had your chance. I'm not building the future with people who erased my past." I hung up before he could respond, then returned to the Aquila email. My fingers hovered, not with hesitation, with clarity. "Let's schedule a call. I'm interested." The sunlight shifted across the floor like something new was about to begin. They offered money. She offered meaning. And I chose the one who saw me before the world did. Cornova was fast-moving and fiercely independent. The third partner, Kellendine, a green energy think tank, 5 years behind in automation. Until Ether9 hit their radar. I didn't just hand over code. I vetted every board, every mission statement. I had built this system alone over 7 years, and I wasn't letting history repeat. Each contract included one clause I personally wrote. Licensee may not accept investment from or partner with any entity previously affiliated with Halvex Technologies. It wasn't subtle. It was binding. If Halvex touched them, the deal collapsed. Some negotiators pushed back. One asked if I'd replace it with a general ethics clause. I smiled and said, "You're not buying software. You're entering its ecosystem. And in this ecosystem, I don't tolerate parasites." We finalized all 3 contracts over 10 intense days. When the ink dried, I stood in my new office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that didn't know my name a month ago. Now it did. Emails pinged. Ether9 had officially launched in 3 industries. 3 directions: logistics, defense, clean energy. Different uses. One origin: my hands. Halvex wasn't mentioned in any briefings. Until 3:27 p.m. A message from my assistant. "Have you seen Twitter?" I clicked the link. Headline: Granite Partners pulls out of Halvex, citing leadership concerns. Granite had led their Series C, held 18%, now gone publicly. Comments exploded. "This is about the patent, isn't it? They fired the woman who built it." Granite saw the name on the wall, and it wasn't Halvex. I leaned back, exhaled. Their collapse wouldn't be loud. It would be quiet, unraveling line by line like faulty code. That night, I stayed in the office. No lights, just the warm glow of the partner network map, 3 companies, 3 pulses. Ether9 wasn't an idea anymore. It was alive. I glanced at the corner of the interface. My name. Discreet. Permanent. You don't win by erasing enemies. You win by making them irrelevant. At 9:02, the next morning, Halvex received a fax. 1 page, the official patent certificate. Page 2, a high-res image of Cole Maddox's signature next to the line confirming I was the sole inventor. He signed it months ago, thinking it was just paperwork. Now, it was the final proof. And I didn't wait for the fallout. I got dressed and drove. Beneath it, the title once read, Lead Systems Architect. Now it was just a blank space. 4 screw holes where the nameplate had been. I stood there in silence, fingers brushing the outline like I was tracing something that once mattered. Then, from my coat pocket, I pulled out the small steel plate they'd removed the morning I was fired. I had retrieved it later, quietly, like most of what I did. I lined it up against the marks, took out a tiny screwdriver. Click, 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 click. There it was again. Aaron J. Price. My name etched and undeniable. I didn't need a witness. I didn't need validation. I just needed the truth restored to its rightful place. At the center work table, I placed a silver USB drive. Empty. Clean. Next to it, I left a folded note. 6 handwritten words. Next time read, what you sign. No threats. No anger. Just a mirror. Then I walked out. No heaviness. No regrets. Just air fresh and full as I stepped into the Portland sun. They'd tried to erase me. But erasure only works when the erased stay quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't burn bridges. I built mine, documented everything, protected myself. And I returned not to break things, but to leave a message they couldn't ignore. A memory. A warning. I didn't come here for sympathy. I came here to tell the truth. And if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or quietly pushed aside while others took credit for your work, then maybe you see yourself in me. If you do talk to me in the comments, I want to hear your story, your quiet wins, your silent battles, the moments when you were expected to disappear, but instead you chose to build something stronger. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to be clear, purposeful, steady. So many of us have been taught to wait for recognition, to play nice, to hope someone sees our value. But what if we stopped waiting and started documenting planning, designing our exit, not out of bitterness, but out of strategy? That's what I did. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I outlasted them. And now I want you to remember this. If someone ever tries to erase your name from your work, your worth, or your future, don't beg to stay. Build the door they never saw coming. If this story resonated with you, Show your support not just for me, but for every Erin out there carving her name back into the system. Leave a comment. Share this story. Tell the person who needs to hear it that silence isn't failure, it's preparation. And if you're ready to keep walking this journey with me, one story at a time, hit that subscribe button. Because we're not just surviving the system anymore, we're rewriting it.